assignment is about Dino's program and his program for Kogi State. Dino has a core philosophy that deals with a development that affects the political economy of Kogi State environment. Secondly, I want to make a comment on membership. The character of the membership of this community is very global because we are professors, academics, engineers, architects, accountants, very many competent people in their own competent areas. Therefore, the committee has been endowed with good and quality people. Secondly, we also want to mention that this particular committee, which was established May 17, worked for about 4.5 months. And the document is over 100 pages, based on a product of hard work by members who are in different fields and who are competent in their own right. Thirdly, the methodology adopted is very significant and not very common because the report was written with a background of shorthand that if once you go to the document which is over 100 pages, you get what you want. You are not going to belabor yourself. You are not going to belabor yourself to read in between lines before you see what we have documented. So it's a product of 4.5 months, meeting over and over and over, screening and screening. And this is why the document is bulky. This is the entire document of Dino Melai. It's very bulky, very detailed. It is not very common. For me, I've been working on this kind of thing before. I've not seen this. So this is a very singular one and should be ascribed to Dino. Now, fourthly and finally on this general comment is the fact that the committee recommended that there must be an independent Kogi State Economic Development Commission. And when he becomes the governor, we are insisting that the character that will constitute that committee should be above board and should have a dynamic influence on the activities of the governor. They should be independent of him and it should not be bureaucratized. And he must look for people with pedigree, with probity, with integrity, so that where he's going wrong, he can be put on direction. I know in the Nigerian factor it's difficult, but this committee will continue to refer to this particular issue. These are just general comments, which I think are very important for the media and for the public, that this product is a very a strategic product produced for copious reasons. Because I know Dino, and I know that he has the character of doing the job, determined and straightforward. And it's on the basis of that. I know him more than 15 years ago. I know that's why we're able to structure this document like this. Because we're using SWOT analysis and we know his character. So we try to impinge the kind of thing he does and what he wants. That is on a general note. As I've told you, the document is detailed, it's over 100 pages. And anybody who reads it will get exactly what you want. Now the report, very briefly, is organized into 3. But because I don't want to take your time, so I'm going to give you the salient points. The first one is the transmission letter. The transmission letter deals with detailed information about what his missions are, the terms of reference, because when he gave us the assignment, May 17, he gave us what he wanted, so we documented it, and we tried to follow what he wanted. And the committee agreed. because the committee was made up of 21 members, as I've told you, with different backgrounds and different competencies. Now, in doing this, Dino was very emphatic about the role of communication. ICT is also concerned about issues relating to private sector investment. Public sector, yes. The public sector is supposed to provide a paradigm within which the private sector, both domestic and international, can operate. And that is the situation now, because we're in a global phenomenon. It's also concerned about social overheads, because that's where the common man, Dino is a rural person, so he knows what the social and the rural people needs. He emphasized that. And therefore, the issue of diversification of the economy, public sector investment, agricultural development, steel development, rural development, development of urban areas are center of his mission. Now, in doing this, we try to organize a theoretical paradigm. We provided a paradigm so that we'll emphasize the core values, the core philosophy. We also itemize the core visions, his mission. What are his missions? What are his visions? How does he go about achieving these particular objectives? We discuss all those. Now, furthermore, we also emphasized the relationship between vision and mission. You may have a vision, but you may not have a very strong mission to translate mission into reality. What are his core values? The core values have to do with probity, integrity, accountability, good governance. And we try to put all this. Now, this report is not as common as others because we transmitted everything we discussed, not in long English, not long Turanchi. We tried to bring it out in shorthand form. And therefore, we had core values. If you say, I want to do agricultural project, he wants to develop agriculture. The areas we deal with, what are the core values of this particular project? What are the mission of this project? What are the visions? How do you formulate the policy about that agri program? How do you also implement that particular policy? What are the intervening variables when Dino assumes office and he wants to do this? What kind of intervening variables are going to come? We put everything in detail. Pressure from politicians, pressure from civil servants, pressure from traditional rulers, pressure from families and so on. And we also posited that what he should do in order to reduce this particular problem. Not only that, what are the consequences of that particular program? Finally, what impact will be produced? So that when you take any item, you see it in situ. You see the details in situ. So that is the theoretical paradigm we provided. It was on the basis of this we were able to transmit this letter. As I earlier mentioned, there were 21 members in that committee, and they work day in, day out, traveling. Sometimes we work to midnight. If we are tired, we go and sleep. We also had, apart from the general committee, we also have a report writing committee, which works in, day out too. We also had a committee on editing, critical editing, so that when people read, because we believe that once this document is published, people are going to read it. So we are very critical about that. Now, these are the major constituents of the letter that we transmitted to him, telling him about the program. But we insisted there must be a Kogi State Independent Economic Development Commission. And we insisted that the principal should not go and hide this document. It should be his third holy book when he becomes a governor. When he's not sure of what he's doing, he should go there and refer it. And whoever comes, he should produce enough copies so that those who are going to work with him will always, direct him. That's a principle of check and balance. So we transmitted this letter. The second report we want to make is to give you total picture of what we did in a very short and shortened form. as earlier mentioned, we had core values. What are his core values as a person? Because most of us who are in that committee also know him. So we prepared a SWOT analysis on Dino. We score him where he scores 0 or plus or minus. We did it before we apply it. Therefore, the issue of core value was very, very important. The issue of mission is extremely also very important. And what are the paradigms to be followed? That's the first part. Then the second part of the report has to do with the fact that we ensure that we had prelude information. If we are talking of governance here, we want to write about what is happening now. But unfortunately, we have no access to any data from current state government. So we had to use our own intelligence and investigation and research. We send members out to get information. So for every project, if you are writing on agriculture, there's a report on what has happened to agriculture. If you are writing on government, local government, the same thing. Education, health, water, Kogi State headquarters, and all the things. So we had about 38 items which have been properly documented. It ranges from governance to local government, from local government, followed by civil service commission. We also have financial diversification. We have simulation and welfare, education, health, and the rest of them. So they are all listed here. It is done like that so that people know exactly what program is going to have. It's like shorthand. He will refer to them one by one. And the essence of this is not to jump into any project, because some governors, they jump into a project that attracts them, that is political. Because there is a difference between what is called political feasibility and operational feasibility. Your policy may be politically feasible, but it may not be operationally feasible. And when you have incongruities, differences between what is politically feasible and what is operationally feasible, you have problem of decremental adaptation. We stated that very clearly that you must avoid it. Because if you get involved, the problem may become aborted. And when a policy is aborted, it collapses. And we put a caveat in the report how to avoid abortions in a policy. Now, by the time you read the report, because there are many items, over 38 items, which are listed here, and for each item, there is a prelude. There must be a prelude where you state exactly what the situation is in the state now. And when you pick up, this is how you should do it. And when you are doing it, you should watch out all the items I mentioned to you, so that when there is a fallout, when the program is not working as you expected, you can come back and review. It is your capacity to review your policy, particularly after monitoring. Then you'll be able to know where you can fill up the gap. If your policy is not working in one way, you involve in decremental adaptation. If you are producing good results, much more than what you expected, you involve incremental adaptation. So his capacity, his wherewithal to do this depends on how he critically follows the outcome of the report. The third part of the report has to do with executive summary. Now, by the time people read this report, by the time you read this executive summary, it gives you a total picture of what the project is all about. In the area of executive summary, it deals with crafting the core value of Dino's philosophy. His core values. What is the core value of the government? What does the government want? Why did it go in? What is it trying to achieve? What is it trying to propose or attack? Then we also mentioned you should expect impossibilities along the road. There will be going to problem of terrain. There will be problem of flood in implementing your programs. Do you have the wherewithal? Can you develop the institute? Do you have the capacity? Can you manage the crisis between what is politically feasible and what is operational feasible? Then we also have what they call the paradigm, which the committee has as a target. Here, you look at your policy you have in mind, you generate the policy as we have generated for him, looks at the implementation, look at the monitoring, look at whether it's leaking, because some policies may leak when you are implementing it. How do you control when your pipe in the house is leaking from the kitchen? How do you plug it up? Some executives know how to plug the nut, some don't. And when you allow it to leak, then there will be flood. And when there's heavy flood in the government, you know what the problem is. So it has to be regulated. Then I also talked about how he can increase or decrease. Then you have a feedback loop. Is there a relationship between the government and the rural people? How often do you visit? If you achieve it, did you let the people know? If you have failed it, did you let them know? Will you accept correction? That's why the issue of commission comes in. The commission should be individuals who should be able to tell the governor, Governor, this is not the way. You should not go and look for yes men who will go there and say, excuse me, can you do? No, Mr. Governor, this is not correct. Go this, if you go like this is what you get. If you go, that is how a government is supposed to run. Then we also have the key issues. Now we emphasize the issue of good governance. That's the first one of the 38 items. Because by the time you read the report, you have a rough view, but you will not be able to get detailed information. What is the issue of e-government? Issue of governance, accountability, probity, integrity. Those ones are extremely very, very important. We also talk about the local government. The local government are already been compromised. We don't have local government in this country. And I don't know whether we have one in Kogi State. Are they going to be autonomous? Or you are going to comatose them? If you are not going to comatose them, you are going to devolve, you are going to decentralize. You should allow them to operate, because that is how to bring development, which I define as growth plus change. Growth is vertical, touching the top echelon of the society, the elites. Our change is horizontal, which touches the rural area. How is it going to operate this so that people in the local government can get what they want?
Hamdi.